So I want to go over the Math 114 and Math 214, the R1 topics. So one of the questions that you're going to get is to rewrite, for instance, 9 times 9 times 9. They want you to rewrite it as in exponential form. So how do you write this in exponential form? You have 1, 2, 3, 3 nines being multiplied by each other. So you write your answer as 9 to the power 3, and that is what you have to enter. Let's say you have another example. Let's say you have 7 times 7 times 7 times 7. So you have multiplication, 4 sevens. So then you write it as 7 to the power 4. The next question, it says, what do we write if, so this is question number 1, and when you are doing these kind of assignments, if you get some of them correctly, or if you do well on the initial assessment test, some of these questions may not show up for you. I'm going over all the questions on R1, but you may not see all these questions in R1. So let's say you may get a question that says 3 to the power 4. Then, and they want you to evaluate this. And to evaluate this, this means this is what is given to you, but it means you have 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So we are going backward. But then they want you to find the answer. So 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 3 is 9, and then you have 9 times 9, which is 81. So the answer to this problem is 81. Or you may have 2 to the power, let's say 3. That means 2 times 2 times 2. So you multiply 2 times 2, you get 4. 4 times this 2. 4 times 2 is 8, and the answer is 8. Evaluate the expression, and you have x minus y over 4. They give you x is 20 and y is 16, and they want you to evaluate this expression. This is called an expression. Often students call this an equation. This is not an equation. If you had x minus y over 4 is equal to 1, this is an equation because you have equal sign. Here you don't have an equal sign, so don't call it equation. It is called an expression. So how do I evaluate this expression? They want me to put this 20 here for x, and they want me to put this 16 for y, and then do the arithmetic. So I have 20 for x, 16 for y, and we have to do this division first. 16 divided by 4 is 4. And then we do the subtraction. 20 take away 4 is 16. So that's how you solve these problems. The next one says, evaluate again. In this case, it's given you 8n to the power 2, and they tell you n is equal to, let's say, 2. How do you solve this one? You have to substitute n that is 2 for that n. What does this mean? This means multiply 8 by n to the power 2. And you have to remember your order of operation agreements. You have to do the exponent first. You have to evaluate your exponent first, then you have to multiply. So anyways, let's substitute. I have 8. If I write it like this is funny. What does it mean? It looks like 82 to the power 2. So in this case, you can't just, because this is what the problem looks like in my lab, in Alex, it looks like that. And if you just go ahead and change that n to 2, it looks like that. So for avoiding error, make sure you put that inside the parentheses. It does two things. It means you have a multiplication, and putting that inside the parentheses, it guarantees that you are going to raise 2 to the power 2 before you multiply it by 8. So you have to do the exponent before you multiply 8 by 2. 2 to the power 2 means 2 times 2. That's what that is, 2 times 2, which is 4. So I get 8, 2 squared is 4, 8 times 4 is 32. So your answer is 32. Let's say you have 3n to the power 3, and let's say n is 4. So then I have to substitute 4 for n. Because this is multiplication, I'm just going to put it as 4 to the power 3. So now I see that I have a multiplication here. I have to raise 4 to the power 3. That means 4 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. So I get 3 times 64. Now I have to multiply. 64 times 3. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 6 is 18, and 1 is 19. So the answer is 192. Please do not use your calculator when you're doing these problems. The next problem says, find the least common multiple of 5 and 2. So we want to find LCM, least common multiple of two numbers. We have 5 and 2. To find the least common multiple, you just, if you have numbers like this, 5 is a prime number and 2 is a prime number, because you can't write 5 as factors of other numbers. 5 is only divisible by 5 and 1. 2 is also a prime number because it's only divisible by 2 and 1. What is not a prime number? 4 is not a prime number because 4 is divisible by 2. 6 is not a prime number because 6 is divisible by 2 and is divisible by 3. How about 7? 7 is a prime number because it's only divisible by 7. So 5 and 2 are prime number. When you want to find the least common multiple of 2 or 3 or 4 prime numbers, just multiply them. 5 times 2 is 10. So the answer is 10. Now, if they tell you find the least common multiple of, let's say, 5 and 15, then 5 and 15, 5 is prime, but 15 is not prime. So write 15 as 5 times 3. So then your least common multiple is just going to be 5 times 3, which is 15. And that's your least common multiple. Let's say they ask you to find let me find another number such as 15 and 20. So how do I find that? 15 is made out of 5 and 3. 20 is 5 times 2 times 2. So then your number is going to be 5 times 2 times 2. I got everything from this one. Then I compare it to this one. This has a 5, so does this. And then it doesn't have a 3 here, so I multiply it by 3. So then 5 times 2 times 2 is 20 times 3 is 60. So 60 is the answer. So I did 3 cases in case, you get something different. If you want to find the least common multiple of 3 numbers, what do? You have, let's say, 12, 4, and 18. So 12 is made out of 3 times 2 times 2. Yes, 12 is 6 and 2, but that's not prime. 6 is not prime, so these are not prime factors. You could write it as 3 and 4. 4 is not a prime number, so 3 times 2 times 2 is 12, and all the numbers are prime. 4 is made out of 2 and 2. 18 is made out of 9 times 2, 6 times 3, but 6, 9, neither are prime, so these are not prime factors. Prime factors for 18 is 3 times 2, 3 times 3 times 2, or 3 times 2 times 3. So I just want it to be organized. So these are called prime factors of the numbers. And when you want to write your LCM, write either one of them. Doesn't matter which one you write first. I'm going to write this one first. And then I compare. So I have 2 2's here. I have 2 2's here, right? So that's checked. Here I have 2 3's, but 1 3 here. So I need one more 3. So then the answer is 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 6 is 36. So 36 is the answer. The next problem says subtract. We want to subtract two fractions. We have 7 over 12 minus 5 over 12. The method of subtracting fraction is you write one, since you have the same denominator, you write one denominator, then you write the numerators, 7 minus 5. 7 take away 5 is 2 over 12, but you need to reduce that because 2 is made out of 2 times 1. 12 is made out of 2 times 6. Since you have multiplication on top, multiplication on the bottom, you can reduce that. The answer is 1 over 6. Or you used to say 2 goes to 2 one time, 2 goes to 12 6 times, so the answer is 1 over 6. What if this was addition? You do the same thing. Since the denominators are the same, you write one of the denominators, and then you write the numerators. 7, you have a plus 5. 7 and 5 is 12. Anything divided by itself is 1. What if the denominators are not the same? Like I have 3 over 4 minus 1 over 8. So you are going to find the least common denominator, which you find it the same way as least common multiple of 4 and 8. So the same way as before. You write 4 is 2 and 2. 8 is 2 and 4, but 4 is not prime. 4 is 2 times 2. This is 4 times 2, but 4 is not prime. 4 is 2 times 2. So how do I find the least common denominator? I write everything from the first one. Then I go here. I have 2 2's. I have 2 2's, but I need one more 2, so I multiply it by one more 2. I get 8. And 8 is the least common multiple of these two numbers and is the least common denominator in this case. So because the denominators are not the same, I want to make them the same. So you find the least common multiple. Then you say, I want this denominator to look like that. I want this denominator to look like that. This is already the same. But what do I do for 4 to look like that? You have to multiply it by 2. But you can't just multiply randomly 4 by 2. For this mathematically to be correct, you have to multiply the top by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. So I wrote 3/4 here as 6/8. Mathematically, 3/4 and 6/8 are the same amount. Whether you eat 6/8 of a pizza or whether you eat 3/4 of the same pizza, you have had the same amount. So once you find the LCM, you want to make sure these denominators look like your least common multiple or your least common denominator. How do you make that happen? You're going to compare. 8 and 8 are the same, so you don't need to do anything about this fraction. To make this fraction to have an 8 denominator, you have to multiply 4 by 2 to get it to become 8, but you have to multiply the top by the same amount. 3 times 2 is also 6, so you write it as 6/8 minus 1/8. You write the 8, which is the same denominator for both ones. Then you write the top 6, take away 1, which is 7 over 8, and that is your answer. We want to subtract the next number. We have 5 over 6 minus 3 over 10. So we have to find the least common denominator or the least common multiple of 6 and 10. 6 is made out of 2 and 3. How about 10? 10 is 2 times 5. So when I want to find my least common multiple or least common denominator, I write the first one, which is 2 and 3. Then I go to the next one. Do I have a 2 here? Yes. But do I have a 5? No. So I multiply it by 5, and that is 30. So I want this denominator to be 30, and I want this denominator to be 30. To turn this one to 30, I have to multiply it by 5. But I have to multiply the top by 5. So 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 6 is 30. To get this denominator to become 30, I have to multiply it by 3. Top and bottom by 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 10 times 3 is 30. Now they have the same denominator. Now I can write one of the denominators and then write the numerator, which is 25. Take away 9. 25 minus 9. What is 25 minus 9 is 16. And then 16 and 30 can be reduced. Why? Because 16 is 2 times 8, and 30 is 2 times 15. 2 and 2 are canceled. I get 8 over 15. Or you can say 2 goes to 16 8 times, 2 goes to 30 15 times. So the answer is 8 over 15. We want to multiply two fractions. I have 3 over 2 times 10 over 9. I want to go over multiple methods multiplying fractions. One method is very straightforward, always works. Top times top, bottom times bottom. 3 times 10 is 30, 2 times 9 is 18. But when you get to this point, you need to reduce it, because 30 is divisible by 2 and 18 is divisible by 2. And also 30 is divisible by 3, 18 is divisible by 3. 30 is divisible by 6, 18 is divisible by 6. So how about if I write 30 as 6 times 5 and write 18 as 6 times 3? This is the fastest way to reduce. They're both divisible by 2. You could have written it as 2 and 15, 2 and 16, but then you had, 2 and 9, then you had to reduce 15 and 9 again. But I said, okay, they're divisible by 2, they're divisible by 3. Since they're both divisible by 2 and 3, they're both divisible by 6. So instead of leaving 30 as 2 and 15, I wrote it as 6 and 5. 18 as 6 and 3. 6 and 6 are the same. I get 5 over 3. How else I could have done this? So this method works all the time. If you're comfortable with this, use that method. Or you could also say at the very, very beginning, I am going to reduce any top number by any bottom number and then then multiply. You say, okay, I have a 3 here. 3 is not divisible by 2, or 3 and 2 don't have the same common factors, but 3 and 9 do. 3 goes to 3 one time, and then 3 goes to 9 3 times. So now I have 1/2 times 10 over 3. Then you say, well, look, 10 and 2 are also top and bottom numbers, could be reduced. And you only do this when you're doing multiplication. You can't do it when you're doing subtraction or addition. Only when you're doing this multiplication, you can do this. You say 2 goes to 2 one time, 2 goes to 10 5 times. So I have 1 over 1, 5 over 3, then you multiply. So after you reduce your numbers, then you can multiply. And how do you reduce? You reduce the top numbers with the bottom numbers. 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 3 is 3, and the answer is 5/3. So that's one way to solve the problem. Now we are going to go over a division problem. Let's say I have 2 divided by 8 over 9. So there is one step you have to take before you find the answer. When you have division with fractions, make sure both numbers are fractions. Change the division to multiplication and write the reciprocal of the second number. That's the rule. Don't flip the first number, flip the second number. Change division to multiplication, flip the second number, is called reciprocal. So I get 9 over 8. You could reduce if you want, or you could just go multiply and then reduce. Top, top, bottom, bottom. 2 times 9 is 18. 1 times 8 is 8. Both numbers are even. 18 is even, 8 is even, so they're both divisible by 2. We can write 18 as 2 times 9. We can write 8 as 2 times 4. 2 and 2 are reduced, you get 9 over 4, or you say 2 goes to 8, 4 times 2 goes to 18, 9 times, so you get 9 over 4. Or you could have reduced and then multiplied. You go 2 goes to 2 one time, 2 goes to 8 4 times, 1 times 9 is 9, 1 times 4 is 4. So either way works. Let's do another division. We have 5 over 8 divided by 11 over 2. Remember, leave the first number alone. Change division to multiplication. Flip the second number. You would multiply top, top, bottom, bottom, reduce later. 5 times 2 is 10. 8 times 11 is 88. Top and bottom are both even numbers, so therefore they're both divisible by 2 for sure. 10 is 2 and 5. 18 is 2 and 44. 2 and 2 cancel each other. You get 5 over 44. Next problem, we want to do order of operation agreement as well as dealing with fractions. So order of operation agreement is PEMDAS. Multiplication, division have the same hierarchy. Addition, subtraction have the same hierarchy. Parentheses has the highest hierarchy. Exponent have the next hierarchy. These two have the third hierarchy, and these two have the fourth hierarchy. Which one of these two do I do first? From left to right, whichever comes first, that gets done. So the same thing with addition and subtraction. So I have a subtraction. I have a division. So division is on the third, has a third hierarchy. It has hierarchy over addition and subtraction, so we have to do this first. How do we do division? We leave 1/6 alone. We change division to multiplication. We write this as 7 over 2. And then you have a minus, and then you have 2/3. So let's multiply. Top, top, bottom, bottom. 1 times 7 is 7, 6 times 2 is 12. There is a subtraction here and a 2/3. So now I have to subtract. We have to find a common denominator. To find a common denominator, we want to find LCD or LCM of 3 and 12. 3 is 1 and 3. 12 is, I don't need to write 1 when it's 1, so you just write it as 3. And 12 is 3 times 4. 4 is 2 times 2. We write the first number, then we go to the next number. The next number is 3, 2, 2. I already have a 3. I need 2 more 2's. So that is 12. 12 is the least common denominator. I want 3 to become 12, and this is already 12. How do I make 3 to become 12? I multiply it by 4, but I have to multiply the top by 4. So I multiply the top by 4, the bottom by 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 4 is 12. This is already 12. Done. I just write one of the 12s. I write 8. Take away 7, which is 1 over 12. And that is our answer. There is another concept that you need to know. It's called the absolute value. What is an absolute value? An absolute value has this notation, 2 straight lines, and there's a 4 here. Or you could have absolute value of -5 or absolute value of -4. So what does it mean? This notation means how far 4 is from 0. If I have a negative here, then it says how far -4 is from 0. This one says how far is -5 from 0. So if this is 0 and 4 is here and -4 is here, this is 4 units from 0. 4 is 4 units, 4 centimeter, 4 meter, 4 inches. But it is 4 units away from 0, and so is -4. -4 is also 4 units away from 0 because it's asking about the distance. It says how far this is from 0. It is 4 units. So the answer to -4 is 4. If you have a +4, you get also 4. If you have a -5, you get 5. If you have a +5, you get 5. So that's what you have to know. Absolute value of 4 is 4. Absolute value of -12 is 12. But if you have a -4, that's different. Or if I have a -5 outside of the absolute value, is different. First, I have to answer this piece. Then I have to look at the sign. So I say, how far is -4 from 0? The answer is 4. And then I carry that negative. If I have this one, how far is 5 from 0? 5. And then I carry that negative. So don't go and say negative times negative is positive. That's not correct. You have to find the answer to the absolute value. Then you take an action for that piece. So the next problem is we have -3 plus -5. We want to add two negative numbers. When you want to add negative numbers, one way to think of them is you borrowed $3 plus you borrowed $5. So if you borrowed 3 and you borrowed 5, you have to add to find out how much you borrowed. You borrowed $8 and you put a negative to indicate that this is what you did, you borrowed. But if you have -3 minus 5, this is the same as that one. They're the same. You borrowed 3, you borrowed 5, you borrowed 8. This is different than saying -3 times -5. When you put these parentheses here, you're saying multiply. When there is no parentheses here, like this case, you don't have any parentheses. This means add the two negative numbers. This means multiply two negative numbers. Negative times negative is positive. 3 times 5 is 15. What if you have -3 times 5? You say negative times positive is negative. 3 times 5 is 15. What if you have that? Positive, 3 is positive, 5 is negative. Positive times negative is negative. 3 times 5 is 15. So remember, when you multiply two negative numbers, you get a positive number. But if one number is negative, the other one is positive, your answer will be negative. And these are different than this problem. So you have a number followed by a parentheses. That means you have a multiplication. But here you have -3 minus 5. What if you have -4 plus 5? So this means you have $5. Start with the positive one first. You spend $4. 5 take away 4, that's what you have. You have 5 take away 4, and the answer is 1. What if you had -5 plus 6? Again, you have, this is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to put that. So what if you have this case? You have -5 plus 4. What does this mean? That means you have $4, but you want to spend $5, so you're short $1. So, or you borrowed 5, start with the bigger of the two. Bigger of the two is 5, but is negative. And every time you have negative, that means you borrowed. You borrowed 5. You returned, because of the plus, you returned $4 to the friend. Now you owe the person $1. So in this case, you have to subtract. And in this case, you have to subtract. 5 take away 4 is 1. -5 plus 4, you are doing 5 take away 4 again, but you get -1. So pay attention to this kind of calculation. What if you have -50 plus -47? This means you borrowed 50, you borrowed 47, total you borrowed 97. So you have to add 50 and 47. You add the numbers in the one place. 0, 7 is 7, 4 and 5 is 9, but since both are negative, you get negative 97. You borrowed 97. What if you have 36 plus minus 25? Do you see you have addition here, a number followed by addition or subtraction? You have to do either addition or subtraction. This means you have $36, you spend $25, 36, take away 25. That's what it is. 6 take away 5 is 1, 3 take away 2 is 1, so you have $11 left. But if you had minus 36 plus 25, that means you borrowed 36, you return 25, you owe 11. What if you have minus 5, minus 1? So you have a number followed by subtraction, so either add or subtract. If you have minus 5, parentheses minus 1, this is multiply. That means negative times negative is positive, 5 times 1 is 5. But this one means you borrowed 5, you borrowed 1, you borrowed 6. Or if you have 3, take away 6, this means you borrowed 6, you paid back 3, 6 take away 3, you still owe 3. What if you have minus 3 minus minus 4? What do you do with this problem? So when you have a back-to-back sign like that, you need to turn this into one sign. And the rule for multiplication holds here. Negative times negative turns this two negatives to addition. So you have minus 3 plus 4. So again, start with the bigger one. The bigger one is 4. You have $4. You have $4 because of plus sign. You spend $3. 4 take away 3 is you have $1 left. What if you have 7 minus minus 6? Again, negative negative makes that a positive. 7 and 6 is 13. What if you have negative 40, negative 36? You borrowed and you borrowed. So you borrowed $76. You add. What if you have 4 minus minus 1? So again, you have a number followed by a negative or a plus sign. That means you either have a negative addition or subtraction. Negative negative makes this problem addition. 4 and 1 is 5. But if you have 4 times negative 1, this is a multiplication because you have a number followed by a parenthesis. But if you have a 4 followed by a negative sign, or 7 followed by a negative sign, or a number followed by a positive sign, you are going to have addition or subtraction. What if you have negative 6 plus 4 plus 9? You could do these two first, or you could do these two first, whichever you want to go. If I go with my first choice, like negative 6 plus 4, that means I borrowed 6, I returned 4, I still have to return another $2. Or 6 take away 4 is 2, but 6 is negative, 4 is a smaller and is positive, you get negative 2. You have $9, you spend $2, 9 take away 2 is 7. So you have positive 7. So let's say you have multiplication, things like minus 8 times minus 2, or you could have it like that. So both of them are multiplication. Negative times negative is positive. 8 times 2 is 16. So when you have a number followed by a parenthesis, that's a multiplication. What if you have negative 35 divided by 5? The same rule that works for multiplication works for division. Negative times negative is positive. Negative times positive is negative. Negative divided by negative is positive. So let me just change that to a 6. Negative 6 divided by negative 2, negative divided by negative is positive. Negative 6 times negative 2 is positive. But if you have a negative and a positive, or if you have a positive and a negative, the answer is going to be negative. Negative divided by positive is negative. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Positive divided by negative is negative. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Negative divided by positive is negative. 35 divided by 5 is negative 7. What if you have a couple of numbers being multiplied, such as minus 2 times 4 times negative 1? First, take care of your signs. Say negative times positive is negative. So the answer is negative. Negative times negative is positive. So first write your sign. Make sure you know what this outcome is going to be. Is it positive or negative? Then multiply. 2 times 4 is 8. And 8 times 1 is 8. So then you just multiply the numbers without their signs. That's one way to do it. What if you have a number 4, you divide it by 0, or you have 4 divided by 0? In math, you can't divide by 0. We call it undefined, and eventually you can write this as infinity or negative infinity in college algebra. But number divided by 0, when the denominator is 0, we say is undefined. So when you're dividing by 0 like that, you call it undefined. They're the same thing here. If you have a 0 divided by 4, the answer is 0. Or 0 divided by 4 is 0. So when you have 0 first or 0 in the numerator, they're the same thing here. You get 0. Whether this is negative or this is negative 14, the answer is always 0. So let's say we have negative 4 over 7 plus 1 over 3. I need to add or subtract because I have a fraction. I need to find a common denominator. My LCD for 7 and 3, 7 is made out of 7, 3 is made out of 3 because they're prime. 7 times 3 is 21. So the common denominator or least common denominator is 3. So we multiply, it's 21. We want this to be 21 and we want this to be 21. To get 7 to be 21, we multiply it by 3. And so we multiply 4 by 3. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 7 is 21. And then we have that negative sign. To get 3 to become 21, we multiply it by 7. But we multiply the top by 7 too. 1 times 7 is 7. 3 times 7 is 21. So I write one of the 21s. And then on the top, I have a negative 12. And then I have a plus 7. So one number is negative, one number is positive. We have to subtract. Start with the bigger one. 12 means you borrow $12. You return $7. You still owe $5. Is it okay to put the negative here? Yes. Or you can put it here. And this is also correct, but none of the textbooks or software like that negative to be in the denominator. They always want your negative to be either in the numerator or next to your fraction. So remember, minus 6 divided by 3, or minus 6 divided by, or negative 6 divided by 3, or 6 divided by negative 3. They're all the same thing. Negative divided by positive is negative. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 6 divided by 3 is 2, and you have a negative. Positive divided by negative is negative, and you get negative 2. So these three are the same thing. You could put your negative in the numerator, next to your fraction, in the denominator, but we don't prefer this one. So let's go over another problem. We have negative 1/4 minus 4/9. Remember, you can't have back-to-back sign. You have to make up your mind. Is this a subtraction or addition? This is not a multiplication. Multiplication looks like this. A number followed by a parenthesis. That's multiplication, but you have a sign here. So this problem either stays a subtraction or becomes addition. Negative and negative, this sign here becomes addition. but then one number is negative, one number is positive, you end up subtracting. So first, let me find a common denominator. I have a 4 and a 9. 4 is 2, 2. 9 is 3 and 3. So my common denominator, I write the first factors, then I write the rest. Do I have any 3 here? No. I need 2 3s. I have 2 3s. I have 2 2s. I have the 2 2s. 4 times 9 is 36. So I want this denominator to become 36 and this denominator to become 36. How do I turn that to a 36? I multiply it by 9 and I multiply that by 9. 4 times 9 is 36. How do I turn that to a 36? I multiply by 4 and I multiply by 4. So I get negative 9 over 36, 16 over 36. Now that I have the same denominator, I write one of them. I have a negative 9 plus 16. 16 take away 9 is 7 over 36. So the answer is 7 over 36. So the next problem is negative 4 over 5 times negative 7. So you have parentheses and dot here. So that's definitely a multiplication. Write a 1 denominator, top, top, bottom, bottom. Negative times negative is positive. 4 times 7 is 28. 5 times 1 is 5. So you get 28 over 5. The next problem is 4 over 5 divided by minus 16 over 15. So you change the division to multiplication. You write the reciprocal of this number. Leave the negative alone. Flip the number. You get 15 over 16. Positive times negative. The answer is negative. Top, top, bottom, bottom. 4 times 15 is 60. 15 times 4 is 60. 5 times 16 is 80. I just remember those. If you don't remember, you have to just write them down and multiply them. So anyways, 60 and 80 are both divisible by 10, right? You can write 60 as 6 and 10, 80 as 8 and 10. So you get 6 and 8. But both of them are even. Both are divisible by 2. 2 goes to 6 3 times. 2 goes to 8 4 times. The answer is 3/4. Or you could have reduced here. You could have said 5 goes to 5 1 time. 5 goes to 15 3 times. 4 goes to 4 1 times. And 4 goes to 16 4 times. 1 times 3, 1 times 4 gives you 3/4, but it's negative. I missed the negative. So the answer is negative 3/4. Now, what if I have problems with a little bit of absolute value problems? Like, let's say I have absolute value of 2 minus 7. How do we handle that? First, you answer this part. So remember your PEMDAS. Now we have one more thing. If you have absolute value, that has to be done first. Absolute value of 2 is 2. How far is 2 from 0? 2. Distance is always positive. Absolute value says how far a number is from 0. And since we are asking about the distance is always positive. Minus 7. We start with the bigger of the two. Bigger of the two is 7. And it's negative. So negative means you borrowed. You borrowed 7, you return 2, so you still owe 5. The answer is negative 5. What if you have this problem? You go inside the absolute value, you calculate that. You have 7, you borrowed 7, you return 2, 2 take away 7 is negative 5 with the absolute value. So you go inside the absolute value first, you simplify, then you say what absolute value of negative 5 is. How far is negative 5 from 0? Distance, it is 5 units. So the answer is 5. Next problem, we have a negative 3 to the power 4 And then we have another one, 4 to the power positive 3. Remember, this means repeat this number 4 times. Negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. That's what it means. So negative times negative is positive, 3 times 3 is 9. Negative times negative is positive, 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 9 is 81. So the answer is positive 81. What about this one? This one is 4 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. What if this was a negative here? So if it's a negative here, do this part. Keep carrying this negative. Put this negative. And then negative 16 times 4 is negative 64. So that's what you would get if that was a negative. What if you have negative 4 to the power 3? This means negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. Positive times negative is negative. 16 times 4 is negative 64. Next problem, we have negative 3 to the power 4. And we have 4, I'm sorry, I did that, sorry. So the next problem is we have 8b minus x, and we want to evaluate where b is 2 and x is negative 5. So we have to put negative 5 for x, and we have to put positive 2 for b. So 8b means 8 times b. What is b? b is 2. Minus x is negative 5. You could put parentheses around negative 5 or not. You have a negative and negative, that becomes a plus sign. You have to remember to do the multiplication first. Don't add. You have to multiply first according to PEMDAS. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 and 5 is 31. 21, sorry. So we get 21. Next problem, we have m to the power 2 plus 5m minus 5, and m is negative 6. So we are going to put negative 6 for m. I get negative 6 here. And I get a negative 6 here because that's 5m, so it becomes 5 times m, 5 times negative 6. I have an m being raised to the power 2, so I have to put m, which is negative 6, inside the parentheses, then raise it to the power 2. Because my number is negative and m is negative, so I have to put the negative number inside the parentheses and then put 2 outside the parentheses. So this means negative 6 times negative 6, which is 36. If you write negative 6 to the power 2, what does this mathematically mean? It means carry the negative, then write 6 being raised to the power 2, which is negative 36. So understand the difference between negative 6 to the power 2 and negative 6 to the power 2. This means you have this guy multiplied by itself. This one means 6 only being multiplied by itself. So this gives you negative 36. This gives you positive 36. So anyways, I have negative 6 squared, which is negative 6 times negative 6, which is 36. I have 5 times negative 6, that is negative, positive times negative is negative 30. And then I have the negative 5. But you have a positive negative. You can't have back-to-back sign. Positive times negative becomes a subtraction. So then do these two first. 36. Take away 30 is 6. 6 take away 5 is 1. So your answer is 1.